Casual, where today we're going to be going over our Week 7 predictions for the 2025 season. Quickly looking at our performance from last week. We went 9-6, a little bit better than we've done the last few weeks, bringing our overall record up to 54-39. And now let's get into our predictions. So the first game we have is Steelers-Bengals. The Steelers are 4-1. The Bengals are 2-4. Steelers coming off of a dominant win against the Browns, whereas the Bengals are coming off of a loss to Green Bay, where honestly, they played better than I thought they would. But despite that, the Steelers are still 5.5-point favorites in this game. And while it hasn't been the prettiest for the Steelers, despite their 4-1 record, I think they are clearly the better team. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I think, should be able to have a very good game. I think the duo of Warren and Gainwell could also, once again, play very well against this Bengals defense. And while the Steelers defense hasn't necessarily been what we all thought they could be going to this year, they're still good enough, I think, to slow down Joe Flacco. Mike Tomlin knows a thing or two about Joe Flacco as well. I do think this will be a lower-ish scoring game because, when in doubt, bet an AFC North game to be low scoring. I'm going to go Pittsburgh 24-17 over the Bengals. Next game, we have the Rams versus the Jags. Both of these teams are 4-2. Rams are 2.5-point favorites despite potentially missing Puka Nacua in this game. Rams coming off of their, let's just say, win against the Ravens. They didn't really dominate them. They just took care of business, essentially. And the Jags coming off of a disappointing game against the Seahawks where their O-line didn't really block much of anything. We did see Brian Thomas have his best game, which was good to see. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that necessarily against a Rams defense, which is... I'm not saying he can't do that, but it's not the easiest matchup, let's just say, with this Rams pass defense. I think this will be a good game. I think this will be a close game. Jags defense is playing very good, and I think without Puka, they can actually contain this. I mean, without Puka, for a good chunk of the game, the Rams put up 17 against the Ravens, which are one of the worst defenses in the league. And now they're going against the Jags, who are one of the better defenses in the league. So I do think it'll be a low-scoring game. But I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, Stafford, Trevor Lawrence. And I think I just trust Stafford a little bit more. So I'm going Rams 24-21 over the Jaguars. Now we have the Saints against the Bears. Saints are 1-5. Bears are 3-2. Bears currently on a nice little 3-game win streak with a big win against the Commanders on Monday night. Saints, well, the Saints are 1-5. It hasn't been the worst 1-5. I mean, they almost beat the Cardinals. They could have beat the Niners. They looked somewhat competitive against the Bills. They beat the Giants, which that win looks even more impressive after what the Giants just did against the Eagles. And they had a chance to beat the Patriots as well. So despite them being 1-5, they are a very competitive team. However, the Bears are still 5-point favorites. 3-game win streak. They're getting healthier. Caleb Williams in that offense looks pretty good. Saints defense hasn't really been the best, so I do think Caleb Williams will have himself some success against this Saints defense. And while the Bears defense isn't great, they do force turnovers, and I do think that'll come back to bite the Saints. So I am going to go Bears 28-23 against the Saints. I do think, again, the Saints can keep this game competitive. Not only have the Bears been in competitive games, even against teams like the Raiders, but the Saints have been in competitive teams against teams like the Patriots. Competitive games against teams like the Patriots. So I do think this will be a closer game. Close-ish game, but I still will go with the Bears in this one. Now, potentially the most least anticipated matchup of the week. We have a battle of 1-5, the battle of who's going to get fired potentially between the Dolphins and the Browns. Browns coming off of just a not great game against Pittsburgh, and Miami coming off a close loss to the Chargers. They almost beat them. They had a chance there late. They took the lead and then Herbert did some Justin Herbert things, and they ended up winning that game. Browns, despite, being the Browns, are 2.5-point favorites, mainly because the Dolphins are also the Dolphins. And it's in a game between the Dolphins offense, which is mediocre, and the Browns defense, which for the most part is very good. And then you have a very bad Dolphins defense against a very bad Browns defense. Now, I think what helped the Dolphins stay competitive in that game against the Chargers is the fact that they were able to run the ball. Right? Devon Achane had himself a pretty good game against the Chargers, right? So they were able to effectively run the ball. He averaged 8 yards a carry for 128 and 2 touchdowns. So Achane had a great game. And I think that's why they were able to stay competitive, because they don't really have a lot of passing options outside of Darren Waller and Jalen Waddle. So when they're able to run the game, it at least gives them an opportunity to get those guys involved. And again, they were able to run the ball against the Chargers. Thus, they were able to almost beat the Chargers. However, this Cleveland Browns run defense is one of the best in the league. They're third best in total rushing yards allowed at just 80 yards per game. So I don't think the Dolphins will be able to get much of a ground game going against the Cleveland Browns. And I think that plays heavily into the Browns' favor. I think it'll be a very low-scoring game for that reason. And I just don't trust this Dolphins defense, especially in the ground game. And I think that's going to help Cleveland manage the clock, really win that time of possession battle, because the Dolphins aren't going to be able to run the ball, and the Browns are going to be able to run the ball. So I'm going Browns 20-17 over the Dolphins. Next, we have an AFC West matchup between the 2-4 Raiders and the 3-3 Chiefs. Chiefs looking pretty good after their big win against the Lions. Raiders, you beat the Titans. That's pretty much all there is to that. Chiefs are 11.5-point favorites in this game, and they're getting Rashee Rice back. I just don't see a world really where the Raiders win this game. Mahomes has had a lot of success against the AFC West as a whole. And again, getting Rashee Rice back against a Raiders pass defense that hasn't been the best, because the Raiders' strength on defense has been their run defense. But that's not the Chiefs' strength. The Chiefs want to throw the ball. And they get their best receiver back against a defense that hasn't been able to stop the pass very well. I'm going Chiefs 27-13 over the Raiders. Next, this is a very interesting game. I think the Eagles are on upset alert in this game. They're 4-2, taking on the 3-2 Vikings. Eagles are favored in this game, hence why I think they could be on upset alert. But only 2.5-point favorites. Now, I don't think we know who the quarterback is going to be for Minnesota, but I'm pretty sure McCarthy has a good shot at playing in this game. Now, it didn't look very pretty with McCarthy under center, right? But it honestly didn't look pretty with Carson Wentz under center either. So I don't think it really matters. Now, one thing that does benefit the Eagles in this game is that they should be able to run the ball. Because I think that's when they're at their best. When Jalen Hurts has to throw the ball all over the field, that's not what they want to do. They want to run the ball. And the Vikings haven't shown the ability to stop the run very well. However, the Vikings are coming off a bye week. Their defense has been very, very good this year. And now you're outside of the run, I guess. And you're facing a very inconsistent Eagles offense. And while McCarthy and this Vikings team hasn't looked great, again, same thing with Carson Wentz too, the Eagles defense is susceptible. Right? You can score against this Eagles defense. And so I'm actually going to go with the home team here, Vikings 24-20 over the Eagles. It feels weird for the Eagles to lose 3 straight, but I'm going with them to lose 3 straight. Now we have the Panthers at the Jets. Panthers are 3-3, coming off of 3 of their last 4, and a big win against the Cowboys. And the Jets are 0-6, coming off of one of the worst offensive performances I've ever seen against the Broncos. in London. Panthers are a narrow 1.5 point favorites in this game. I just think the Panthers' rushing attack is going to be what really kills the Jets here because, I mean, we seen when the Panthers played a bad run defense in Miami, they ran all over them and won the game. When they played a bad run defense in Dallas, they ran all over them and won the game. And now they're playing a bad run defense in the Jets. I think they can run all over them. And I think obviously that will help them win the game. And then when it goes to the Jets, when you talk about the Jets offense, the Jets want to run the ball. Same thing with the Panthers. The Jets want to run the ball. They can't pass the ball at all, right? Justin Fields has not shown any ability to pass the ball, and they might be without their only viable receiver in Garrett Wilson. So not only do they want to pass the ball in general, but without Garrett Wilson, or run the ball, without Garrett Wilson, they're definitely going to want to run the ball. But the Panthers' run defense went from one of the worst in the league last year to pretty viable, pretty good run defense this year. So I think this game is going to come down to the trenches and the run games in specific, because both these offenses really want to run the ball if they want to win games. And I think not only do I trust the Panthers' ability to run the ball and stop the run more than the Jets, but I trust the Panthers' pass game more than the Jets. So if it does come down to the passing games, I'm going to lean towards the Panthers here when it comes to those aspects. So I'm going to go Panthers over the Jets, 24-20. Now we have the Mike Vrabel game between the Patriots, who are 4-2, and the Titans, who are 1-5. Patriots, narrow win against New Orleans last week after their big-time upset against the Bills, whereas the Titans didn't do a whole lot against the Raiders. Patriots are 7-point favorites. That honestly seems very low. I know the Patriots are a very good team. So I feel like it should be, I feel like the Patriots aren't like necessarily like the best of the good teams, but I still think they should be more favored in this game because their defense has been one of the best in the league, and you're going against the Titans offense that doesn't really do anything. And then their offense has actually been pretty decent, and now you're going against the Titans defense, who hasn't really done much of anything, not named Jeffrey Simmons. So I think this is pretty easy for me. I'm going Patriots 24-13 over the Titans. Now we get to our afternoon games. First one, we have the 2-4 Giants against the 4-2 Broncos. Broncos 7-point favorites. Seems high to me, to be honest, because the Giants are coming off of a very interesting yet impressive 3-game stretch, beating the Chargers, then losing to the Saints, which is very odd, and then beating the Eagles. Not only beating the Eagles, dominating the Eagles. And the Broncos, outside of their win against the Eagles, haven't really impressed me that much this season. So I would think that this game could be a little closer. I do think it's going to be a very, very low-scoring game. I love what I've seen from Jackson Dart. I love what I've seen from Cam Scadaboo in this Giants offense. But you're going against one of the best defenses in the league in the Denver Broncos, who have made even good offenses look bad. And now you're plugging in 2 rookies to try and stop or try and score against this Broncos defense. I don't think it's going to happen very much. And while I haven't been in love with what I've seen from the Broncos offense on a week-to-week basis, and while the Giants defense isn't that bad, I just think the Broncos offense will be able to put up enough points that they'll be asked to, just based on what their defense is going to be able to do. So I'm going Broncos 21-17 over the Giants. Colts Chargers is our next game. Very good game. Probably the best game, like, record-wise, I'd say, or at least one of. The 5-1 Colts against the 4-2 Chargers. Chargers only 1-point favorites in this one, probably because they're home. So it's basically a coin flip, 50-50 game here. Colts coming off of a narrow win against the Cardinals. Chargers coming off a narrow win against the Dolphins. So two really good teams, not coming off of their best performance in some aspects against not the best opponent in last week's games. But I just think the Colts are just the more consistent and more complete team. I mean, they score the most points of any team in the league on a per-game basis, and they're top 5 in total points allowed. Now, their weakness is their pass defense, so I do think Herbert can have himself a good game. I like Herbert to, put up some good numbers here. But I've gone against the Colts, or not gone against the Colts. I've been skeptical about the Colts early on, but I'm all in on the Colts. Again, as I said before, they're probably one of the more complete, consistent teams in the league. And the Chargers have just not been very consistent. We've seen some cracks in this Chargers team so far this season against Miami, against Washington, against the Giants. It hasn't been the prettiest thing for the Chargers despite their 4-2 record. So I'm actually going to go with the Colts. This is a typo on my bad. I'm going with the Colts 28-24 over the Chargers. Now we have the Packers against the Cardinals. Packers are 3-1-1. Cardinals 2-4. Packers coming off of a somewhat easy win against the Bengals. Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett almost upset the Indianapolis Colts. But despite that, the Packers are still 6.5-point favorites. And while they haven't been, the most consistent team, similar to the Chargers, they're a lot more consistent than the Cardinals. The Cardinals give you some moments of like, okay, this could be a decent team, and then there are also moments where maybe they're not a decent team. Whereas the Packers are just slightly better in their inconsistencies, I think. Like the Packers' highs are better than the Cardinals' highs, and the Cardinals' lows are better than the Packers, or worse than the Packers' lows, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go with the Packers here, 27-21 over the Cardinals. Next, a divisional matchup here, NFC East. Commanders 3-3, Cowboys 2-3-1. Commanders only 1.5-point favorites coming off of a brutal loss to the Bears. Not brutal as in they got blown out or anything, but it just wasn't the prettiest game by the Commanders. And Cowboys coming off of a loss to the Panthers on a game-winning field goal. Both these teams coming off of losses on a game-winning field goal. I do think this will be a very high-scoring game. I mean, every Cowboys game is probably going to be high-scoring. They have one of the best, if not the best offense in football, and one of the worst, if not the worst defense in football. So automatically their games are going to be high-scoring, similar to what we've seen from the Bengals in years past. And I think the Commanders kind of have similar mold. Like their offense is can be one of the better teams in the league when healthy. And their defense has been up and down. So I think this will be a high-scoring game. It'll come down to which defense can do something. And I think I trust the Commanders' defense more than I trust Dallas's. So I'm going Washington 34-30 over the Cowboys. Excuse me. Our Sunday night game is between the Falcons and the Niners. Falcons 3-2, coming off a big dominant win against the Bills. Niners 4-2, coming off of a loss to Tampa Bay where they lose Fred Warner. Despite that, they are 1.5-point favorites. However, I really like the Falcons in this game. I mean, they have one of the better offenses in the league, especially in that ground game. If the Falcons can get that run game going, that's when that offense really clicks. And the Niners haven't been the best in run defense. They haven't been bad by any means, but they haven't been the best. So I think the Falcons will be able to run the ball and get that offense going. And the Falcons' defense has been one of the better units in the league. And this Niners offense has been too inconsistent. So I'm going Falcons 23-20 over the Niners. Now we have Buccaneers Lions. Buccaneers 5-1, Lions 4-2. Lions are 5.5-point favorites, probably just because of how injured Tampa Bay is, especially the receiver position. Now losing Ibuka. But honestly, I still like the Bucs' chances in this game. I mean, their defense has been up and down, but their run defense has been really good. And if you can stop Gibbs and Montgomery, which we saw the Chiefs do last week, you can have success against this Lions defense. And I think Tampa Bay has a chance to do that in this matchup. And Baker has been down his weapons all year long, and he still made it work. And he still might get a guy like Mike Evans healthy. So my upset of the week is Tampa Bay beating the Lions 28-27. And our final game here is between the Texans and the Seahawks. Texans coming off a bye week at 2-3. Seahawks coming off of a nice win against the Jags at 4-2. Seahawks 3.5-point favorites in this game. I just think, this is the game of elite defenses, right? Texans are arguably the best defense in football, and the Seahawks are one of the better defenses in football. So it's basically which offense can get anything going. This game is basically about which offense can get it going against an elite defense. And I think I just trust Seattle and JSN more than I trust CJ Stroud. Not necessarily CJ Stroud, more the Texans' O-line. I just trust Seattle's offense as a whole over Houston's. So I'm going Seattle 24-21. And that will conclude our Week 7 predictions. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and in the comment section below, let me know some of your predictions for Week 7, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.